Rick, welcome.
Hello. Thank you.
Yeah, when we were kids podcast, man. So obviously all things retro, all things toys. Rick from Time Capsule Toys. You're going to be hosting this podcast here at the Youngstown studio. But tell us a little bit, man. Give us a little bit of a preview of what the podcast is going to kind of look like going forward.
Going forward, we're going to be talking to like other shop owners, collectors, hoping to have some guests on that have been at Toyhios, maybe future Toyhios, stuff like that.
I got you. So yeah, you run Toyhio. That's twice a year, right?
3 times a year.
3 times.
We run every February, June, and October.
I got you. Well, describe for the people that don't know the Toyhio Toy Show. It's one of the biggest toy shows in this area for sure. You get a lot of cool guests. You had a lot of cool wrestlers and stuff this past go around. But yeah, man, describe a little bit about Toyhio for everybody.
Toyhio started, I don't even know how many years ago. My buddy Tom, who passed away, came to me, wanted to do a toy show. And he knew that I've been wanting to do a toy show. So I said, all right, let's do it. Booked it at like a fire hall, like 30 tables. And now the show, since Thomas passed away, the show has taken over the whole Metroplex. It's like over 30,000 square feet. I always bring in wrestlers. I put the wrestlers actually in Tom's spot that Tom would actually set up in. Because that was the one thing he always wanted was wrestlers. I said, yeah, once we get to that point, sure. So last show we had 14 guests, which is absolutely unheard of for us because it was double our normal largest guests because AEW came to town because AEW wanted to work with us. So we had like Brody King. We had Matt Cardona, who you interviewed. We had The Acclaimed, which you interviewed, Anthony Bowens. That was Cardona's second time coming, The Acclaimed second time coming. Then we had Billy Gunn. I can't remember who else. Aubrey Edwards, Willow Nightingale, Bryce Remsburg, Billy Starks, Penelope Ford, Kip Sabian, The Blade, The Bunny, who's no longer in AEW. She actually just started a podcast too. I don't know who else. Yeah, so many people.
So yeah, I mean, we know a lot of these guys collect toys too, so it's kind of like a double, which was sort of the perfect sort of the way everything lined up this year was great because yeah, like you said, AEW was here. You know, Cardona I know is a huge toy collector. I didn't realize Bowens was too, but he is also too when I interviewed him and stuff too. But yeah, man, I mean, how many of your guests would you say are also toy collectors over the years?
Probably, if I have to guess, I'd probably say like 90%.
Yeah.
Because I think the only people we've booked that aren't toy collectors, like that I've personally booked, let's see, Scarlett Bordeaux. She did Toyhio. Actually, she did Toyhio twice. She doesn't collect toys. And she might be the only one that I don't think Billy Gunn collects toys, but yeah, a lot of them, like, because the whole thing with me wanting to book people who collect toys is because it is more enticing for them to be there.
Yeah,
they're more excited to be there. It's something they actually want to be a part of. And that's like when we had Ethan Page, who's now signed to NXT. He did like 5 shows in a row with us. And you can check all that out on YouTube. Same with Danhausen, same with Major Pod. They were all a major part of like Toyhio becoming what it is and helping spread the word of like, hey, this is like a show not only just for like normal everyday people, but this is a show for like the wrestlers and stuff like that who collect because and that's the word just kind of started spreading like wildfire to where I personally didn't have to go ask people. They started coming to me. So nice. I was like when Ethan Page, I contacted him during COVID. He goes, well, I still live in Canada right now. We can wait or whatever. I was like, okay, that's fine. It was Danhausen's first Toyhio. It was in October. So I remember because the flyer was Goosebumps themed, everything. And after he did it, a couple weeks later, on Twitter, I get a message from someone. I open it. It was Ethan Page. And he goes, I think we need to have an open line of communication.
Nice.
So then, like, all from that, just like kind of snowballed into like the perfect storm of like people who actually want to be there.
Mhm.
And that's like what we go for, is the people who actually want to be there.
Yeah, man. So how did you get into toy collecting? I mean, have you always been a collector, and how did that become your job?
As a kid, every week when my mom got paid, she would take me to either like Woolworths in the mall, which I'm sure
Mhm.
you remember Woolworths had
Yep.
2 entrances. They had the parakeets flying around everywhere.
Mhm.
That's some nostalgia for you. You're always worried about getting pooped on by these parakeets. But we go there. Every week I'd get a Masters of the Universe figure.
Mhm.
I can count on my one hand how many of the figures I did not own, which was Snakeface, Twistoid, and Rotar,
Mhm.
and like Sorod. Those are like the ones I didn't have. And so we moved. They were in storage. Storage got broken into. Stuff got stolen. So then, like, at this point in time, Masters of the Universe were on shelves anymore. So I went to Ninja Turtles because that was the next hot thing. And then fast forward years later, I got super into horror movies, and everyone started calling me Rick of the Dead.
Mhm.
And I started collecting horror figures. I had a ton. And then the horror figures weren't coming out as fast as I wanted them to come out. So I started slowly selling off my collection
Mhm.
and just started going after the stuff that I had as a kid instead, because I'm like, that stuff holds more memories to me than like the new like NECA stuff.
Mhm.
So pretty much the way it got started with me buying and selling was I was selling off my horror collection, buying the stuff I had when I was a kid. And then from there, I started doing one show here, one show there. And I was like, I can make money doing this.
Mhm.
So then I quit my job. I was working like 50 plus hours a week, traveling all over the United States. I was never home.
What was the job?
I worked for buybacks.
Oh, okay.
I was a district manager. I had stores in Washington. I had stores in Colorado,
Mhm.
Louisiana, like Oregon. I was all over the place, all over the time. And I was like, I can't do this. Like, my son was just born. I got so sick of it. And I was like, I always like, there's something about gambling that I always want to take that chance.
Mhm.
So I was like, what better time to gamble than gamble on myself?
Mhm.
So I quit this job that was guaranteed money, started a flea market booth.
Mhm.
Now we are on our we've shop has moved now like 3 or 4 times. I think we're on our 4th move. Now we're in Niles and open 7 days a week, have employees, have the toy show, and the opportunities just keep knocking at the door. And
Is there any rhyme or reason? So we talked about this a little bit before because we had featured you on behind the scenes from here when we spotlighted Time Capsule Toys. But is there any real rhyme or reason to what toys? I mean, obviously, like there's, people our age now, right? Like you're going back to buy the toys that you had as a kid, and and a lot of us have money now, so it's like, oh, we have a job, we can actually go back and afford to buy some of this stuff. So that's a big kind of component of it. But outside of that, I mean, is there really any kind of rhyme or reason to what gets really hot, what isn't? Does it just come, every couple of years, like a new age group kind of comes into it, and that the toys from their childhood get hot? I mean, does it stay like that? I mean, I guess what are some of the trends that you see in stuff that becomes really valuable or really collectible?
there are trends,
Mm.
and it's when people start getting disposable income.
Yeah.
So like many years ago, like 12-inch Joes, you're seeing people charge like stupid money for it.
Mhm.
But now 12-inch Joes, like you pretty much almost can't give them away because
Yeah.
the people who collected them are dying.
Mhm.
So basically, like right now, like it's weird how it works. So when Toys That Made Us first came out, Masters of the Universe, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, stuff like that,
Mhm.
climbed in price like crazy prices. Then COVID hit.
Mhm.
Stuff like went insane because people thought like they were never gonna own this stuff again. They couldn't leave their house. Like
Mhm.
so everyone like went nuts. So like there were certain things that like just like for example, WWF Hasbro 123 Kid.
Mhm.
He was like the last figure in that wave. like very short produced. During COVID, that figure loose was like $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
And like people were going like nuts. And that figure itself just keeps freaking there's no rhyme or reason to it. It goes from $1,500, it drops back down to 500.
Mm-hmm.
And then they release some like new, they call them retros, the retro versions of them. And it climbs up to like 700, 800. At that point in time, we had like 2 of them.
Mm.
Same guy bought both. And then he tried to sell them back to us.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, dude, they're like $500 a piece now. Like, you aren't going to get what you got. And then, like, it just, sometimes there's no rhyme or reason to it. Like I said, the 1, 2, 3 kid figures fluctuate so badly. It's just, you have to, it's like the stock market.
Mm-hmm.
You got to know when to buy, you got to know when to sell. And like with the whole thing with disposable income too, is the fact that kids now that are getting jobs, like they're going after the stuff they had when they were a kid, like stuff that no one wanted, like the Power of the Force stuff from like the 90s. Like, we couldn't, like us toy stores couldn't give away. Now, like people were going like bananas for it, and like we sell them for like $7 a piece still. And there's like, oh, is that the short saber or the long saber? I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, it doesn't matter to me. I'm like, it's $7. But back then, that stuff was going for like stupid money. But now it's like the vehicles from those waves are going for more money, but the figures are like kind of staying the same. So like, there's like no rhyme or reason to it. It's all like a gamble. Like, years ago, what was it? When Kong Skull Island came out, Walmart had all those Skull Island toys. I went, they were clearance. It was like smaller sets were $2. Like the bigger, like the helicopters and boats were $3. And I think Kong was like $7. And this is like the gambler in me. I'm like, I filled up a shopping cart of anything I could grab, and I shoved it in a closet for 3 years. Then one day I go, I wonder if this crap's ain't worth anything now. About fell over because like the sets I paid $2 for were selling for like $90 now. I mean, I sat on the stuff for 3 years, and needless to say, like I ended up unloading like all of it, like over the course of like 2 to 3 months, just listing online and stuff like that. It's just you could see some trends with toys, and then sometimes there are no trends with toys. Like there's certain lines I've bought, and I look at, like I bought them on clearance, and like I have stuff sitting in a closet that's been sitting there for 5 years, and I'm like, I saw the price sticker on, like I paid $3 for it. I look it up online. I'm like, how's it selling for less? And it was $3 then.
So is there anything that like what does your collection look like these days? I mean, do you still collect toys, or do you just, I mean, do you end up selling a lot of this stuff? I mean, are there staples that stay in your collection all the time?
There's staples that stay in my collection. I'm always, once you collect, you always collect. I don't care what people say. We've bought so many people's collections. They're like, oh, I'm out. The next thing you know, they're coming in. But what are you doing? Oh, I'm getting back into it. You're never out. And I'll never be out. Like right now, like I think it was like, it was February Toyhio. I got one of my grails. I got myself, finally, I always told myself, I'll buy myself an Eternia when it has the box. My buddy Chris, VHS Crypt, posted he was bringing one. I was like, how much? He's like, this much. I said, all right, put sold on it at the show. I said, now I'll grab it after the show. I said, because I need it, because yours is like the first one that had the freaking box that I've ever seen basically in person. The thing's so big. It's in my garage. I have nowhere to put it. I have to wait to clean out my toy room to get it in there. But like I collect Master Universe stuff. I just got one of at the Butler Area Toy Show. I just got one of the last 2 food fighters I needed. Okay. Which I'm sure tons of people don't know what the word food fighters are. Mattel made this line called Food Fighters. And there was like a thing of pancakes, a taco, chocolate chip cookie, ice cream cone, a donut, and fries. And as a kid, I went to, here's a big throwback for anyone who's listening, watching, whatever, from who lived in Cortland. There was Hopkins Pharmacy. I got money. My mom wouldn't drive me 10 minutes further to Ames, so I had to go to Hopkins Pharmacy. Walked in. That was the only place that sold food fighters. So I got Sergeant Short Stacks, which was the pancakes. And that's what I just got at the Butler Toy Show. So now I'm only missing one, which is the variant to Sergeant Short Stacks. Actually, I lied. I'm missing 2 variants. I'm missing the jelly donut for Major Munch, and then the blueberry syrup Sergeant Short Stacks.
Do you have like a big toy room on display? Do you have all the stuff like? Is it like? I mean, Matt Cardona has walked through. I think he's moved his a couple times, and he was talking about he's building a new house.
He's building a new house.
He's specifically getting a bigger toy room.
Yeah,
to put more shit in there.
My toy room is like small, so I have to be picky about what I collect. So like I said, I collect food fighters, My Pet Monster stuff, Master Universe stuff. Master Universe stuff I'm super picky with. Like, it has to have boxes, but not windows, because I just like the artwork. I collect the kind of RoboCop stuff, which I have like all of that. I collect another piece I got at the Butler Toy Show was these things called Gross Out Gang.
Okay.
There was only like 5 or 6 in the line. Like the only thing that moves on them is their heads. You just turn their heads. Their arms don't move. The legs don't move. I got this one. I forget what his name is. He has like 3. He has a pair of glasses and his eye on top of his head. I bought him only because he has his cape. Because the capes are always missing. I'm only missing one. I don't know. I know like one of their names because they're so obscure. Like I never see them. But like there's one I need. He has a giant nose that has a crutch that goes underneath it. And I'm like never gonna find it because no one's ever gonna have the crutch because crutch is always missing.
What toys right now like are just flying off the shelves all the time? Like what toys kind of can't you keep in stock that are just I guess what's the hottest? What's some of the hottest stuff right now?
Right now, turtles are always hot because they just keep pumping out turtle stuff. There's a lot of vintage turtle stuff that's super hard to get, and people are always wanting it. For us in store at Time Capsule Toys is wrestling. We sell so much wrestling. It's like at one point in time, we were selling more Hasbros than we were like Elites in AEW. We like you'd go to like D&E in Pittsburgh, or you'd go like Pop Culture right outside Pittsburgh, or you'd go to like your Toy Connection in Ravenna. Everyone's like, oh, you don't have Hasbros? And there's just go to Time Capsule Toys.
Yeah,
because we had like a 6-foot counter case just filled with Hasbros, like at all times. So I was like buying Hasbros like crazy because we couldn't keep them in stock. And now like Hasbro's kind of died off, but like for us it's wrestling because if you go to Walmart and Target, there's nothing there. Yeah, like literally nothing. And so like wrestling, that's what we're known for. So we have like a 40-foot wall of just wrestling figures. That and when X-Men 97 hit. That X-Men Toy Biz stuff was flying. And now another thing, too, is those X-Men 97 figures. They were in store. They were $22.97 or something like that. Some of those figures now are up over $50.
I remember the X-Men. I remember being an X-Men and being into the comics, and I never got into the toys, but I remember the one toy that I was always wanted to buy, I think it was out of that set, was the Gambit. And whatever, and I think I'm sure you've seen many of those come out. I don't know what's that going for these days, just out of curiosity.
The Gambit's probably like $20-$30. Okay. There's certain ones that are way more, like the Deadpool. Yeah. The Deadpool's like $60-$70 because that was his first figure ever. Yeah. There's obviously the Yellow Wolverine. He's like $30-$40. Rogue is like $25. There's Cyclops. He's like 20.
And I remember seeing all the ones you just mentioned, but every time I went and looked for the Gambit, it was never there. It was like the most I obviously wasn't alone as a kid, being like, this is my favorite X-Man. My favorite member of the X-Men.
Yeah, because in the cartoon and everything else, everyone thought like Gambit was so awesome. Yeah. Like me, I was obsessed with Wolverine. I think it's because he was a jerk. But I loved Wolverine as a kid. But Gambit was super hard to find. Growing up, I was collecting the X-Men figures. And like you could never find. There was like 4 you could never find. It was Gambit, Nightcrawler, Colossus, and like Omega Red.
There were always toys that I remember as a kid. So I was big into, like you, I started, the first toy I can remember collecting was Masters of the Universe. I remember having all that stuff. And then I went from there to Ghostbusters, then Ghostbusters and Ninja Turtles. And I kind of went up the line. It got to the Hasbro, like the WWF Hasbros. Like I had a couple of the big rubber guys, whatever, but it was real big on the Hasbros. But I just always remember going to look for, like I knew they had all these different ones, right? Like, but every time I went to the toy stores, it was always it was always the same stuff. Like it was so rare that you saw anything different. It was like every time the Rockers and Bushwhackers were there, like always. Like it was like all these Rockers and Bushwhackers. Like oh, get some new figures, but like there were so many that I never saw, you know, out in the wild, so to speak. Like I never saw Hitman, I never saw Mr. Perfect. Like there was a whole bunch of I never saw Andre the Giant. I never saw like all these ones where if I ever saw them, I would have bought them instantly, you know what I mean? Like, and it just, yeah, like it was weird how that worked. Like they'd only get certain ones in, or it would just be the same ones over and over again. It's like, what the hell? I remember being so ticked as a kid. Me and my friend used to call the toy stores and ask which ones they had before we went there, or we made our moms drive us there.
That's funny because that's still the problem now.
Yeah.
Except for now it's not us as kids, it's us as adults.
Yeah, right.
And we go to Target and we're just like people in California are getting new figures, and you walk in here to our Walmarts, Targets, whatever, and you're like, it's the same crap.
Yeah, why was that? Like, why was that the case then as a kid? Why is still that the case now? Is it just store managers that's just they're ordering from the distributor?
As they always say on major podcast, it's distribution problems. It's just I don't know what it is. Like, I guess now, like in their systems, they can see like what they sell, what they need to get in. But I guess like there's the way it works is you can only have, like, I guess that's how it works in Target. Someone told me you can only have so many pegs of elites. So basically, if you want more wrestling in your section, you have to create a new line. So that's why they have ultimates, they have basics, which they don't call them basics anymore. I don't even know what the world they call them now. And then they have their like elites. That's why AEW went from having like the unrivaled figures to the unmatched and now the Supremes, because they want more shelf space, more peg space. So that's how they have to do it now, because you're only permitted so much space for each line to where you have to come up and think of some change the color of the box and give it a different title, and it's the same thing. But the Target, it's not like that. But yeah, distribution problems were real bad. One point in time, we were getting our wrestling shipments from our distributor. We were getting them like 2 months before the release date, which was awesome for us. Then what happens? I compliment them on that, and now we're back to square one of getting the stuff whenever we get it.
I just remember
it's not even on time.
Yeah, I remember as a kid with all that Hasbro WWF line. I remember buying figures of wrestlers I didn't even like, but just because it was something different. Like, oh, if it's different, let me get it. Like I had like Virgil, and I had there's some other ones that was like, oh man, yeah, like I Virgil's the first one that comes to mind. Sorry, rest in peace, Virgil. But like he sucked as a wrestler. Like nobody liked Virgil, you know what I mean? And then but he says, oh, at least it was anything different in the store, because like wherever we went, it was always the same stuff. I remember like my head like exploded when I found an Undertaker. I was like, oh my god, an Undertaker! And like I actually found this and never saw another one again. And yeah, somehow I gotta talk to my one friend, because I still have all those Hasbro figures that I bought. Somehow they went. So it was me and my friend at the time, and like we would collect whatever. And I don't remember, for some sort of project in high school, we took all these figures for something else, and he has them all still. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm not sure why he has them. I think we blew up a couple of them for some other project or something else like this, like lighting them on fire for some goofy video project we had to do or something like that. But like he still has them all, and it's like, all right, where are those figures at?
Can I have them back?
He probably gave them to his kid, and they're probably all.
I don't need the melted Virgil back. I'll take everyone else back.
Right.
But what you said back when you'd go and you'd like, there was never anything. I'll never forget. growing up, it was my birthday. My one aunt never like bought us any gifts like ever. So she's like, hey, it's your birthday. I'm going to take you to Kmart.
Mm-hmm.
It was the Kmart that used to be that where Myers is now sitting. I'm like, oh, I want WWF Hasbros.
Mm.
She goes, all right, let's go there and get some. She goes, you can get 2. I'm so excited. I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get Hasbros. It's going to be so sweet. I walk in there, there's only 2.
Mm-mm.
And it was like 2 guys I absolutely hated. And I was like, I don't like these guys. And she's like, well, that's what you said you wanted, so you have to get them. She goes, it's that or nothing. So I got stuck getting the green suit $1 Million Man and stupid Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Yeah, I think everybody had Hacksaw Jim Duggan too. He was always there too. Like, yeah, Hacksaw
I'm like, I want a Warrior.
Yeah,
and like someone else. And I'm just like, oh my God.
I feel like they made more of those too. But truth is just us kids, we just didn't like them that much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember, like I said, again, I always saw the Rockers and I always saw the Bushwhackers, and it was like, all right, but the Rockers figures kind of sucked. Like, it didn't really look like Shawn, like it didn't really look like them. You know what I mean? Like, they kind of looked terrible. Like the Bushwhackers at least looked like them, but you know, they were kind of like, whatever. They were always sort of a throwaway tag team back then. But But yeah, it was just always the same. It was like, yeah, it was never Demolition. It was never anybody. You didn't see the Heart Foundation. And I was like, man.
It's crazy too, being like this many years later, when people bring in like their toys, you're always going to find like one half the Rockers.
Yep.
And it's always Shawn Michaels. They're always going to have the Bushwhackers. And you're just like, Jesus Christ. Like those ones, it's like they're at the point where like you can't give them away.
Yeah, I feel like they made just way more of some of them than the others than they're letting on, because there's no reason for some of these that say, oh, this comes from the same line, but there's ones that's like just so scarce to ever find anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I remember just actively looking as a kid and being like just disappointed all the time.
Yeah, no one like those tag teams, because they only did a couple sets of the actual tag teams. They did the Rockers, they did Bushwhackers, they did at that point in time it was the Legion of Doom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember how I had the Legion of Doom. I remember finding them,
and then Demolition,
mm-hmm.
and then that Demolition, what was it? They did Axe and Smash on separate cards.
Yeah, they were separate. When the tag team wasn't an Axe and was it Axe and Crush or Smash and Crush?
It was Axe and Smash, and then later on they made Crush part of it.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, but anyways, so getting back to Toyhio a little bit, man. You know, you guys, the next one's what, October? You said
October 12th.
So do you have any guests lined up for that one yet that have been announced, or do you confirm?
We have Mr. Mayhem himself, Wardlow. He lives in Cleveland.
Gotcha.
It's taken us this long to get him.
Yeah.
Like, dude, just drive here. So I actually just got a text earlier today that someone got cleared, which I can't say yet until I sign the contract and they sign the contract. But someone else got cleared. It's someone else that's been on TV quite often. Mm-hmm. So we got someone else we're in talks with for October. They have to wait to see if they get clearance. That's the main thing. You always have to wait and see if they get clearance.
Right.
Because they book so far in advance. But then sometimes, like, something happens and there's like, oh, sorry, can't make it. Got work today. Like Matt Menard a couple Toyhows ago. Mm-hmm. Patty Magic canceled the day before the show.
Gotcha. Has there been any... So obviously a lot of the guests that you've had... are very happy to be there, and I'm sure they're super easy to work with. Have there been any guests that have just been a complete pain in the ass?
Yeah.
Or just like you know, they have so many demands, or just like outrageously expensive for the time they're going to be there, I guess.
Really, like, we haven't had anyone like difficult. Like, the only like issues we've had were with Matt Menard, who like I kept asking for, like, hey, send me your pictures so I can get them printed. He just kept doing whatever. I'm just like, I know he's canceling.
Yeah.
And kept asking. I wouldn't get responses. I'm like, I knew this dude's canceling.
Mm.
Then the day before the show, he canceled. And I'm like, I'm still waiting for him to reimburse me for his flight and his hotel. So there's that. It'll be a year this October.
Oh, jeez.
I don't think I'm getting that back.
Yeah.
I think that was like the only like major issue. Like we had Nick Gage, which we had him booked for the last Toyhio, but he got his dates mixed up. He was actually booked for GCW in California.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly he couldn't sign in Ohio and then go wrestle in California, which he was like, for like watching him on like Dark Side of the Ring and stuff like that, he was like super easy, super apologetic. Like, I was just like, yeah, dude, we'd love to have you back at some point in time. He goes, I want to come back. He goes, I heard nothing but good things about you. He's like one of those cases that you would assume would probably not go over good. But he was like, I asked him a deposit. He sent the deposit back instantly when he had to cancel. Like, he was like nothing but professional. Then, like I said, then you watch like the episode Dark Side of the Ring and he robbed a bank without a mask and all that stuff. I'm just like, man, this dude's like totally different than what he was. Like,
right.
I'm like, he's super nice.
I got you. Yeah, nice. Well, Rick, you know, just kind of wrap up here for this. But yeah, man, again, kind of preview a little bit of what people are going to be able to expect from the podcast, kind of going forward.
Going forward, like I said, we're gonna have like different shop owners on, collectors, hoping to have some guests, just like a hodgepodge of topics. We're gonna talk about like toys that bring back like childhood memories, toys that got you where you are today. Like personal grails. Like everyone has that girl that got away. Well, what was your toy that got away? Like stuff like that.
I got you. Yeah, I think my toy that got away was I never bought the I think I told you this before, the firehouse from Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
And I remember always seeing it in the catalog, whatever, and be like, oh, this is the greatest thing ever, and I could never find it. It's like, the
problem is now if you get it, don't take it apart to put it back in the box because you can't.
Yeah, right.
Once you snap that thing together, you're done. And it will not go back into the box.
Yeah.
Because you will break it.
I got you. Yeah, no, so yeah, that was my white whale, unfortunately, that I never managed to get. But yeah, maybe someday. You had one at the shop last time I was in there. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, we sold that one, and then I had one at Toyhio, and it sold like instantly. So
I got you, man. Well, all right, man. Well, looking forward to seeing what's coming in the weeks ahead, man. But yeah, thanks for being here.
No, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.